All right. Welcome to my Pop Lock Locksmith Greenville Investment Opportunity presentation. We are looking to take out loans from friends and family instead of borrowing from the bank to give the interest that we're going to be paying back to normal people instead of these billionaires who run the banks. And so, going to go through what we're doing right now in Asheville, how that's working, how it's going, how Asheville compares to Greenville, and then what we are wanting to do in Greenville. So here we go. Currently here in Asheville, we are running Pop Lock Locksmith Asheville. Encourage you to Google it, check out our Google business page and everything. Current hours, basically Monday to Friday, 7 to 7, Saturday, 8 to 6, with a little caveat on that. But we've been averaging about $1,000 a day in income since opening, and our payroll, which is our biggest expense, is probably hovering right around 30% of that. So 300 a day goes to payroll. And our other biggest payment is this $5,000 a month loan that we have for 10 years, small business loan. Now, currently, we're in the middle of extending these hours, and so we've been open just for 2 Sundays. So, kind of currently, we're doing a mix of this, and then we were open till 10 on Monday and Wednesday. And I have a guy that we're training who's hired and training, and he will be doing Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. The busy season here in Nashville is made in November and things are ramping up. You can see that with the numbers that I'll go over with you, but we are getting busier. And so this number of $1,000 a day seems to be going up, but right now that's still what we're averaging. So current business, just kind of want to compare February to March to show you where we're trending and how things are going. This is for our car door unlockings, and that's about 25%. About a quarter of our sales is for car door unlockings. And so 68 in February, that's the full month of February, even though we only owned it from February 8th onward, but these numbers are just for the full month. And then in March, we did a little bit more. Now, of course, there's 3 extra days in March, so that doesn't, matter too much. Here's the big one though. So we raised prices between February and March, and so our income has went up by 27%. Our average ticket price went up by 17%. So we went from around $80 to a little over $90. The percent of our calls is fairly consistent. Almost 40% of our calls that come in are car door unlockings, but again, it makes up a quarter of our sales. And so these are not as lucrative calls you'll see as locksmithing, but they kind of fill in some of the gaps in between other calls, and they do help us bring in a decent amount of money. And here's the payroll. And so obviously the payroll went up because not only did I raise prices from February to March, but I also gave them a bit of a raise. And so they work on 100% commission. And so I wanted to make sure their commissions were a little bit better. And so that's why this went up a little bit more than this one did. All right. Here's our locksmith report. And so this is everything locksmith, and you can see that we make more money on this. Here's the money we brought in from locksmithing in February. And here's the total when you count the locksmith and the car door unlockings. On this row, you see 78, and that's the total of these three added up. So our auto locksmith calls, our residential locksmith calls, and our business locksmith calls all added up. 78 total locksmith calls. Lock picking, technically, I guess, is not under locksmithing. It's kind of more like emergency services, like a car door unlocking, and we don't do a ton of that. 7% of our calls, 5% of our sales. Doesn't bring in a ton of money, but a little bit here and there it helps. Our biggest thing, as you can see, is our auto locksmithing, 45 calls. Average ticket price for February was 180, made up about 57% of our calls, and it made up about 57% of our sales. So kind of right on there. Now you can see, again, I raised prices a little bit in March. And so here's our numbers again, 102 locksmith. Those are the spread there. 196 calls total in March, which is up 15% from February. Our income was up 29%, again, because I raised prices and stuff. The average ticket for locksmith auto went up to 190. That went up. that went up. The averages kind of all went up a little bit. Let me go back really quick just so you can see. You can always pause it as well. But we're trying to raise prices because they had not been raised at this business in 3 years. And so obviously things have gone up in 3 years. And so again, you can see that their payroll went up, partly because sales went up, also because I did give them a little bit of a raise. And so our total payroll was not quite a fourth, but not quite a third, a little less than a third, but more than a fourth of our income. All right, so here's some stats on Asheville, just as an area, so you can compare to Greenville. And so this is from 2023. Things have changed, of course, a little bit, but this was the most recent data they had at datausa.io. And so the population is under 500,000, right? A little bit over 400,000. Median income right around 70. Property value, I'll go into that a little more in depth. And so the property values in Asheville, that's the median property value. So half are worth less than that, half are worth more than that. And that just shows that, it's a decent area as far as wealth and prosperity. Nothing too crazy, but it's a good, solid middle class area. 68% of the homes in this area are owned, by owner occupants, and 69% of the homes of those people have mortgages on their homes still. And so 30% are free and clear on their mortgage, which is great, and 68% own the home. So the rest, of course, are rentals. Landlords use us quite a bit to rekey when somebody moves out, and so that's good as well. Household income there again, about half the people make more than that, half the people make less. And so you can see there's a good spread of incomes here. And, I guess there's more people kind of in this area who are making less than that compared to the United States, and there's less people who are in those top incomes compared to the United States. But there's a decent amount of people who are, in that solid middle area. Now, there are more people who own multiple cars than compared to the United States as a whole. And so since so much of our stuff is auto, that's awesome for us. Here's our competition. In Asheville, there are 5 locksmiths who have over 100 reviews, not including us. We have over 500. We're getting close to 600 now, hoping to have over 1,000 by the end of the year. And so that just kind of shows you a little bit of our competition. And then here is our Minute Key location. So Minute Key, you'll see them inside of a Lowe's mostly. Those are those little green boxes that you can go in to make a key yourself. Well, they also have phone numbers. And so if anyone calls a Minute Key, that call gets rerouted to us. We answer it. We pay Minute Key $10 for every successful call that we close on. And we actually add that $10 onto the price for the customer. So it really costs us nothing to do this. And this is a huge part, one of the benefits of having a franchise. They negotiated with Minute Key so that all of these calls would go to Pop-A-Lock first if there's a Pop-A-Lock in the location. And so that's huge because we get a decent amount of business from Minute Key. All right, there's our Google business profile. Again, I encourage you to look at it on your own and Google Locksmith Asheville, see where we come up in the list, but we're pretty high up there and we're doing very well. We get a lot of calls every day from the Google business profile. So here is Greenville, just to compare. Little under 1 million, so more than double compared to Asheville. A similar median income, lower housing values overall. And so for me, the lower property value, but the similar income actually says that probably most of these people have more disposable income because their mortgages are lower. And so that's kind of a plus for us. Greenville, similar, about 70% of people own their homes here, so the others are renters, and about a similar number of people who have mortgages on their homes still. And so pretty stable area, there's a decent amount of renters, which is good for business, but there's also a lot of homeowners, which is also good for business. There's the income. Again, we're in the lower ranges more than the US and less in the higher ranges. But overall, people with decent income who can afford to get their locks changed. And again, they own more cars than the average people in the US. Now, there is a little bit more competition in Greenville. So 14 locksmiths with over 100 reviews. You can see Papa Lock is right there. Um, and so that's, a little bit of a challenge, but it's fairly proportionate to how many are in Asheville. They had under 500,000 people with 5, and then this is close to 1 million with 14. So fairly proportionate, but a little bit more. Here's the minute key locations in Greenville. So right now, all the calls that come into them are going to other locksmiths, but when we start up in there, those calls will be coming to us. Here's their current Google business profile. Now I want to highlight, they were Papa Lock, a car door unlocking service. They only did car door unlockings, which as you saw was only about a quarter of our income. And so we would come in here, change this of course, and focus on locksmithing to get that income up. All right, some of the pros of Greenville. They have a much higher population, which means of course more business potentially, and a larger employee pool, which is nice. We would have a lower loan cost than we currently have in Asheville. So again, I said Asheville, we're paying $5,000 a month, roughly. If we raise all the money that we want to raise for Greenville, which is $200,000, then our loan payment would be $2,400, so less than half of what we're paying currently for Asheville. They have a Google business page with 500 plus reviews, which is huge. I mean, that's where most of our business comes, is through people Googling a locksmith, right? And so getting that page would be awesome. Similar demographics to Asheville, I think that's a pro because the prices we're charging here, we should be able to charge there. We should be able to bring in a similar amount of income. They have the minute key locations, which is the same as Asheville, so that brings in a decent amount of work. And then they're also less seasonal than Asheville. And so Asheville, we have this, mountain weather. It's a little cold and snowy in the winters. And then the spring comes and everybody starts getting outside, losing their keys, locking themselves in their car. We get a lot of tourists who come up here in the summer and fall. And so Greenville's a little bit more steady and normal than Asheville. Some of the challenges with Greenville. Doesn't really come with anything but the Google page and obviously the rights to the franchise area. But Asheville, we got 3 vans, employees, tools, all that stuff. And so this, only comes with the Google page, but we'll be able to use our current vans and things and take them down there to get started down there. Now there is more competition down there as well, which is a bit of a challenge. I think it's about proportionate to what we have going on here, but slightly more competition. It doesn't come again with an employee like Roger. Roger has been our star employee here in Asheville. I mean, without him, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing. He's amazing. And so, we don't have somebody like Roger down there right away. We'll have to train somebody up to be like Roger, and so that is a challenge. And then it's a little bit further of a drive. It's an hour down to Greenville from my house. Right now, I'm driving 30 minutes up to Asheville to go to the office there. So a little bit more of a drive. Here are some of the things that we've learned from running Asheville. First of all, you don't have to have the full hours going to make money, and I'll talk more about this later. But we can start out slow with less hours, even less days open, and still bring in good income. So we just want to keep things simple, stupid. That's me. Locksmithing, focus on locksmithing, bring in money. You can add in car door stuff later, but you don't have to do anything fancy. This business, people are calling, everybody needs, keys and locks changed, and so just keep things simple. We can answer calls from Asheville and we can schedule service down in Greenville. And what I mean by that is say that we're actually not physically in Greenville, but we're up here in Asheville doing a job. We can still answer the phones, talk to people, pretend we're down there in Greenville, say, "Oh yeah, I can, schedule you for tomorrow," and I'll get into that a little bit more later. And then focus on locksmithing and add in the lockout services to fill the gaps. So locksmithing brings in 75% of our income. Car door unlocking was 25%. Focus on locksmithing, fill in that later. That's going to be our focus down there in Greenville to start out. Wanted to highlight some of the franchise support that I have as an owner. So I do monthly calls with Rob Reynolds, who's the director of operations. Great guy, tons of information, fantastic resource. The nice thing that I like about most of these people in franchise is they actually own a franchise location as well. And so they know what we're going through, they know what we need, they've been through it all. And so Rob is a huge support, and I get to talk with him once a month, and I can call him and text him anytime. We have a scheduled call once a month. We meet weekly with Monique as well, and we just kind of go over strategies, challenges, things I can be doing differently. Make sure I know everything that they offer because there's a lot they offer in terms of support that sometimes I don't even know exist. And so we go over that with her. I have a monthly owners call. So all the franchise owners get together and we do a monthly call, talk about what's working for people, what their challenges are, different things that are going on. And there's also this Pop-A-Lock Franchise Owners Association, which is kind of like a union for us owners to negotiate with the corporate people to make sure that we're getting the best of everything and that they're treating us well, which I have not had any issues with these people. Everybody has been super supportive and amazing so far. Um, and kind of on that, I bought the Astro location from these guys, Brad and Shane, who still own Pop-A-Lock Tri-Cities, which is in Johnsonville, Tennessee. And they still help me. I can call them, text them anytime. If Roger's sick, Brad will come down here and work and get in the van with me and go around, do all the calls. Just fantastic people. So we have these systems in place from the franchise that I probably would have really struggled to get in place on my own. We have a call center in Texas that answers all of our calls. They put all of those calls and the information in an app that then our techs open up the app and they know exactly what they need to do, who they need to call, where they need to go. And so just really good systems in place that we can transfer anywhere, including, of course, Greenville. And they give us a lot of freedom and support. And so they're not dictating, hey, you need to go down there and you need to be doing car door unlockings and you need to do this, that. We can go down there and just focus on automobile locksmith if we want it first. We could go down, that guy was focusing only on car door unlockings, right? You can you have a lot of freedom to do what you want to do, but they also give you a lot of support, which I love. And I want to go over just some of the benefits of the locksmith business in general, not just Pop-A-Lock, but locksmithing as a profession, as a trade. It's a service business, with a low cost of goods. And so we buy keys for, $5 up to $60, depending on the key. And then we turn around, we sell it for a lot more. To give you an idea, Brad and Shane last year did about $420,000 of income in Asheville, and their cost of goods was under 30,000. And so even though things are going up with the tariffs and whatnot, we still have pretty low cost of goods. We're not going to be replaced by AI anytime soon. There are definitely industries that are getting wiped out by AI, and locksmithing is not one of those. There are a lot of locksmiths retiring. I got a call just this week from a guy who's retiring, wants to sell me his business here in Hendersonville. Comes with a van, comes with tools, kind of comes with everything we need to get Greenville going. So I'm talking with him right now. But I see postings all the time for people selling their locksmith businesses because unfortunately the younger generations haven't been picking up a lot of these trades. And so a lot of these older guys are retiring. They got no one who's, they're a lot of them are one-man shows, and so they're just trying to get something out of their business as they retire. And I believe this business is very recession resistant. It's a necessity, not a luxury. People need car keys. If they lose a car key, they got to have a new one. And so we are always getting calls. Well, as you saw in there, most of our business is from auto locksmith stuff. That's not going to go away even during a recession. We've raised I needed to update this. We had raised about 75,000. We're up to about 105,000 right now. Our goal is 200,000. And what's that going to go towards? It's going to go towards 140,000 is for the franchise area, the territory, to get that Google business page and to have exclusive rights that no other Pop-A-Locks can operate in the Greenville area. And that allows us to go down there with our branding and our trucks and everything. And then the other 60,000 will be for tools and a van and office space, all the capital that we need to get the business up and running. So here's the plan. Plan A, if everything goes according to plan. Myself or Roger will be down there for 2 months training somebody. We'll be down there Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday is the plan. Wednesday, we won't be open. I mean, we will be open, but we won't be there. And so if somebody calls on a Wednesday, we'll say, hey, we're already booked up today. We can get you in Thursday or Friday or Saturday. And we might also not be down there on Monday, just depending how things go. But plan A is to be down there 4 or 5 times a week, training somebody up for 2 months to be able to do it on their own. Should be easily be able to bring in $500 a day during that time if we have that Google business page. That's 2.5 jobs, a day. And that'd be 10K a month. And then once we're full time and we hire and train this employee, and then we'll be able to train hopefully 2 more employees within 6 months, get the hours open to full time, be bringing in that $1,000 hopefully plus a day, 30,000 a month. And so within 6 months, we'll have Greenville up and running to where Asheville currently is. Now, maybe that doesn't go according to plan. We can't find anybody to hire. It could just be that we're down there 4 days a week, just me or Roger, again, bringing in $500 a day, still 8,000 a month. Take off the 2,400 for the loan, we're still making enough money to pay ourselves, turn a profit for the business, pay all the bills and everything. Here's the investment that we're looking for. So this is kind of what we're proposing to you as a family or friend. We're looking for 20 people to invest 5 to 10K plus. We have some people who have invested more, but ideally that's kind of what we're looking for. 8% interest, no prepayment penalty, amortized monthly, 5 to 10 year term, and I'll go over what that looks like in a little more depth shortly. But that's the offer that we have from the bank. But we would rather, again, I was thinking about it one night, laying in bed, thinking, man, I could pay more money to the bank. And I thought, why don't we pay it to friends and family members instead? And so you can get some consistent returns, check every month or every year if you prefer. And so the stock market right now is crazy. A lot of people are not sure what to do with that. I believe this is a very safe investment. No investment is 100% secure, but I think we have a great business plan and a lot going for us. And so, again, some of that money, is going to go to purchase the van and the tools. Of course, some of it's going to go to purchase the franchise area. And so that's what we're looking for. Here's a little amortization schedule. You can find a similar one. I use bankrate.com. So you put in, this is a 10-year term, borrow in $10,000, 8% interest. Kind of shows you what your payment would be every month, how much goes to the principal, how much goes to interest, and then it gives you a breakdown of the total interest for that year. And so on year one, we're paying $775 in interest. That's our full payment. And so I'm sure you could figure out if we times that by 10, you move that number over, and the interest doesn't exactly get times by 10, but we'll go through that year by year. And so every year paying about the same amount, but you can see the interest goes down, a little bit more goes towards principal. And you can pause this at any time if you want to look at these numbers, but I'm going to fly through these pretty quick. Year 3, etc., etc., etc. And the full total interest by the end of 10 years, $4,559.31. So about $4,500 in interest on a $10,000 loan. So you're making about 45%, really. 8% turns into 45% over 10 years. And so you get the 10,000 back, of course, plus an additional 4,500. All right, if you have any questions, please reach out. You can text me, call me, love to chat, go through this with you in person if you would like, but just want to do it in a video so that you had it and you could watch it, pause it, go back, look at stuff again. Hope this is of interest to you, and love to hear from you soon. Thanks. Bye.